Today, we are talking about leadership skills, which may surprise a few of you why we're talking about leadership skills for those that are very early or new in their profession, articling students and perhaps new associates. Linda Lucas is the founder of LeadVantage, and what she will tell us and what I believe is that leadership skills can be developed early in our careers to serve us well in the future and to align us for accelerated growth and success in our careers. One of the most important things that firms are looking for from you is your ability to deepen relationships internally. And these leadership skills are going to help you develop more emotional intelligence around how you are positioned in a firm, how you are interacting with others within the firm, and how you can actually align yourself with the leaders of the firm. It will also help you lean in and support firm growth and firm advancement in a way that might not be might not, others in your firm may not be as aware of. There is a huge opportunity for you to lean in as a leader. Even without followers or staff reporting to you, there's still a huge opportunity for you. And Linda Lucas is going to tell us about building trust that deepens relationships. And she's also going to take us through some questions about what makes you happy. What does your future look like? And what does alignment look like for you? And these all connect with leadership skills and the training that she does with a number of firms, bringing her 25 years of experience as a leader herself in the law firm and accounting firm space. So have a listen, take away some of these nuggets, and don't dismiss yourself as somebody who's just junior, because you should develop and can develop those leadership skills. So I want to thank Linda for joining us. She's from LeadVantage, and her contact information is below in the episode notes. Enjoy. Welcome to the Lawyer Launcher Podcast. Hello, friends. I'm your host, Susan Van Dyke. If you're a law student or a new lawyer eager to launch a successful career, you're in the right place. Drawing on more than 25 years of experience, I'll demystify the business of law and help you understand just what it takes to succeed. With my co-host, Johanna Mills.
Hello there.
We'll empower you, help build confidence, and reduce anxiety. Our experts will share tips and advice, and I can't wait for you to hear from them. Now, let's dive in. I'm super excited to talk to you. I know you and I have had conversations about firm management, of which you have deep experience. I haven't counted how many hours you have in law firm management at an executive level.
Well, professional services, it's a lot.
Yeah.
In total. Yeah. And
Yeah.
law firms and accounting firms are very similar. So that's where I've been a lot in the last 15 years.
Yeah, 15 years. Geez. And I know you and I have had lots of really rich and fun conversations about management and leadership and economics and all of that. And I'm so happy to hear that you and your partner at LeadVantage, Sophia Ariche, have started this fabulous new venture, not so new anymore, in leadership. And this connected, and I love the way you kind of lit up when we started talking about this, how it relates to law students and how where law students can actually plug into leadership and all of that. And I know you guys are out doing tons of training. And before I forget to mention, if anybody listening wants to go and follow you, and I love, you have these little inspirational quotes that you have on LinkedIn, and your blog is rich and you can just fall into it. So I've seen you personally, because you and I've worked a little bit together here and there, and I've really seen you embody leadership. So when you went out and started LeadVantage with Sophia, it really felt natural. I'm going to say, even though you are a designated accountant. So those things are, to a lot of people incongruent, right?
Yeah.
But to me, knowing you, it was really natural for you to fall into this role. And I think you'd be I haven't seen you in your training setting yet myself, but I imagine you're amazing because I've seen you in similar settings. So where did you get your leadership mindset? Where did that start for you?
A long time ago, actually 25 years ago,
Wow.
I had a boss who was absolutely amazing. His name was Peter, and he was everything I always thought a leader would be. So he was very inclusive. He was very supportive. He challenged everyone's perspectives in a really positive way to make us stretch and think outside the box. He was open to everyone's viewpoints. He went above and beyond for his team. He put himself first all the time. He was there for the feedback, and that's a really important part of leadership. So for me, feedback, I got all the kudos when I needed to in the moment when it happened. But more importantly, I got the corrective feedback in the moment when it happened and when I needed it. And of course, corrective feedback is never a fun thing to be receiving. But for me, he did it in such a way, and I trusted him so implicitly. He did it in such a way that I knew he was just trying to make me better and bring out the best in me and just have me apply my skills in a much more thoughtful and provocative way. So for me, having him as a role model, it helped me realize this is who I wanted to emulate in my future. And this is who I wanted to be in a leader in everything I've done since then. So that's what really inspired me and pushed me into this leadership space, because I saw the impact it had, not just on me, but on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And we were a much higher performing team because of him.
I have to ask you, does he know how he inspired you?
Yeah.
He does. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. I actually saw him not too long ago. He was in Vancouver and looked me out. Yeah.
I love that. We have to send him this podcast and share that with him.
Yeah.
You use the term corrective feedback. Is that a term that you have? Is that a turn of phrase that means something specific? Or is it not simply, but is it that you're getting that feedback right away so that you can pivot and actually pivot your behavior in a more productive way? Yeah.
In a more productive way. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're not hearing about it 2 weeks later. It's like in the moment.
Yeah.
And you're understanding why, not just being told you did a terrible job. It's like, this was the impact. This is how the results, this is the outcome. What could we do differently next time? That's corrective feedback.
Is the opposite true as well? If you're doing a really fabulous job, why specifically you're doing a fabulous job? Not just pat, great job, you're fabulous. But I really liked how you show up for meetings so well prepared. You ask interesting questions, you do deep research or whatever.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And somebody who's really aware and very engaged in that moment, right? Because leaders or supervisors, to put it that way, because we can all be leaders, has to be really aware of responding in those moments, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it creates trust. It helps people know that you're genuine. It helps people know that you're going to be there for the good, the bad, the ugly. It's really important. Yeah, absolutely.
And that you can deliver, not you, but a leader can deliver productive feedback in a way that is, and I love this phrase, and it's coming up more and more lately, the psychological safety. It's underscoring the psychological safety of a workspace because of how that message is delivered, and that it's okay to fail occasionally, as long as, there's exceptions, of course, but we should be in a safe place to fail and correct our mistakes. I believe, I feel strongly about that.
And challenge everything as well. That's a big part of psychological safety, is having the voice as well to speak up and share your views and share your thoughts and your opinions. So psychological safety is very much a buzzword right now, but it for me, it's absolutely everything. It's the foundation of everything you do.
Absolutely. And in law, particularly, where it's, it can be challenging environment with high expectations, back to the perfectionism that we were talking about earlier. There's a very high bar, very high standard for that. And I think that's really important. At this stage, and we are talking mostly to law students, and they might think, geez, it's presumptuous to think that I could be a leader. There's no one following me yet, maybe on social media. How can I possibly be a leader in this space as a law student, as an articling student? So why is this exactly the right time to talk about leadership for students?
Well, everybody has a responsibility to be a leader in their organization, every single person. Mm-hmm. We're all responsible for the success of the company. It's not just the CEO or the VP or the partner. We all play a role in making that happen. So that's number one. And number two, building good habits at the beginning of your career is essential. Yeah. So why would we want to build bad habits and just have to fix them later? So if we start off with the right attitude, it will only help us in our career. And when I talk about having good leadership qualities, I can break it down really easy into a very easy statement.
Oh, please. Yeah. I'm going to take a note. Okay.
Think and act like an owner. And what I mean by that is, if this was your business, what would you do? How would you act? How would you behave? How would you look after your colleagues? How would you be supportive and caring, and what initiative you would take, and what ideas would you bring to the table, and what trends are you paying attention to, and are you listening to the news, and so on and so on and so on. And when you show up at the table with a stake at hand, and you realize the importance of what you're doing, it is only going to propel your career forward. Right. Because I can assure you, with that type of attitude, people notice, and people want people like that on their teams.
Right.
So that's why starting and thinking with leadership is so important from day one. And having run law firms in the past and accounting firms, those types of associates that think that way, they stand out.
They do. I've seen it as well. So what are some of the fundamentals of leadership that will make a young lawyer shine in their organization?
Yeah. So this is my favorite topic. The number one, the most important fundamental of any leadership is trust. Trust is the foundation of everything we do.
Yeah.
And trust is something that every single human being on this planet needs in their relationships. And it actually dates back all the way to the caveman era. We needed trust to stay alive. And that need hasn't changed in our modern world. So we need that today, maybe even a little bit more than ever. And without trust, all you have are acquaintances. So what you're thinking about as a young lawyer is, what are you doing to build trust? And what does that look like? And there's very simple things to build trust. It's about talking straight, being accountable, staying committed, showing your loyalty, speaking the truth, showing your courage, showing your vulnerability, having your colleagues' backs, talking about people like they are in the room, paying attention, listening to people's needs when they're not talking, following up, caring, asking about themselves beyond the office. All of those things build trust and create cohesion in the workplace. So that's number one. And then when you have trust in place, the second thing is all about building relationships. So a lot of people will say to me like, well, I have my work life and I have my personal life. And I'm like, how is that possible? You're just one person. So why would you want to have two different ways of approaching life? And when you stop and you think about all your best friends and your family and your siblings and all the people that you care about, and you think about how much fun you have with them and how much you look forward to being around them, why wouldn't you want that in your workplace? So for me, I'm like, why wouldn't you try to develop that? So when you go to work every day and you're going to be in work for a really long time, 40, 60 hours a week sometimes, why wouldn't you want to have a lot of fun with your colleagues and having a good laugh and going out for drinks or lunch or dinner or sporting events or doing sports together and making your entire life inside and outside of the office super fun?
And work can be fun, right?
It can be fun.
Even outside of drinks and all the fun stuff that you just mentioned, and you could be working late nights and still really enjoy the people that you're with and have a bit of a laugh,
yes,
and release some energy. I wanted to go back the list that you were talking about, how to build trust. I love that because it requires somebody to be pretty disciplined about and it goes back again to what you're talking about building good habits at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And that includes the discipline of, am I keeping my promises? Am I being open and vulnerable, as you say, as vulnerable as one can be in a law firm? I mean, you have to be a little bit, careful. Maybe we should talk about that in the next podcast. But having that self-awareness is going to be really important so that you can show up in that way and build trust and have that EQ, that emotional intelligence that helps to build trust, right? Because it's not easy for everyone.
No, it's not, but it is a learnable competency. And it is the number one competency in today's business world that every leader requires.
You guys coach, I think, these things, right?
Yeah.
You guys would,
and we train it.
And you train and then you do your coaching. So you could help somebody. This is not a commercial for Lead Advantage, but I do like to mention that that's something that is a coachable thing that can follow somebody through. I love the idea of looking at, throwing all the resources at a new lawyer and helping them through and see, you and I've talked a little bit about that, and seeing them grow and right through to wherever their career needs to go, and how amazing that would be it just makes my hair stand up on the back of my neck. So a lot of the students that we're talking to and with right now, not with, but to, or listening, what kind of critical questions should they be asking themselves before they embark on their career? Because I think it's, we had one student say to us, a law firm looks like a big opaque box, and they're in the school mode, they're looking forward. So what can they do?
So this is going to sound maybe simple, and they might think their problem is a lot more complex, but really it boils down to what makes you happy. What makes you happy? What makes you fulfilled? And thinking about your values. What are your values? That is one of the first things we ask all new young leaders when we sit down in a training exercise with them, is like, we're starting with your values, because your values will drive your decisions, will drive your commitments, will drive your loyalty, will help you decide if you're really happy with where you're working, what leader you will follow. And when you know your core values, the decisions you start making will be in alignment with those core values. So you actually start making good decisions. So when you're going in and you're starting to interview with some of the law firms and you're trying to have conversations, you've got to remember this is a two-way street. They need you just as badly as you need them. So make sure you're asking the right questions that are in alignment with your values. And if something for you at work-life balance really means a lot, talk to them a lot about what those expectations are. Talk to them about the work, the product, their culture, their own core values, and see what that looks like. So very simple, but it's a starting point for any professional in their career, in my view. And then the second thing is create a vision board. What does your vision board look like? So it's an old school trick with all coaches to say, create a vision board. Think about where you want to be in your future, 5 years, 10 years, 3 years, whatever your time frame is. And some people will like just write it out. Some people will find pictures and put it together, and it should encapture your work life and your personal life. And what's really important about that particular statement is, number one, you have a vision. It will guide you in where you're going. It will help you think about your practice area, what partners are saying to you in these interviews, or the people who are interviewing you. And then also, when you actually create something and you put it up and you save it in your office wall, or you put it in the closet of your house, or wherever you save it on the back of your bedroom door, when you're looking at it, you will actually get things done because you're measuring yourself against what you've created for yourself. So it's really important to think about your vision and where you want to go. And then the third thing is to think a little bit about who's who in the zoo. And what I mean by that is research any firm that you're going into, understand their reputation, understand their brand, not just look at their website, because everyone can do that, but go on LinkedIn and see who their connections are, and see if they know anyone so you can talk to them, read their blogs, read their posts, see their likes, get a sense of whether or not they embody the same values that you do, if they do the same kind of work that you want to be doing, if they're saving the world, if that's something that you want to do, or you know, whether it's altruistic or not. Find out more about what you're doing before you actually go to the interview. And then when you're in the interview, everything I just said, or if you once you accept the job, everything I say still applies. Dig further into who's who in the zoo, and make sure that you understand the nuances of the law firm, and understand which partner is doing what, and who's a good mentor, and who's going to look after you. And when you have your core values and your vision in place, having those conversations is a lot easier.
Boy, don't you wish you knew you had this advice yourself when you were 25, 30 years ago? I know. I think about that sometimes too. I love the idea of the authenticity and how it weaves through, not just now, but throughout somebody's career, and how it weaves through their personal life as well. And you talked about looking for those nuggets of values of others, whether it's a firm or a partner or a group of associates that you're looking to join.
Yeah.
But also expressing those yourself in your own feeds and your own, material that's online. Your own digital footprint should also display those things as well, right? If you're really into sports, don't be afraid to share that.
Yeah.
If you need to go and dig a well in some third world country, go and dig that well and post a photo, like what is important to you, right? So they can see you, because as you say, it is a two-way street. So you want to display that about yourself as well.
And a lot of things are cookie cutter, right? In our world, I know I've watched the student hiring committees go through hundreds, if not thousands of applications. How are you going to stand out?
It's so hard. I got to tell you a story. I was with a firm, and I was helping to go through hundreds, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of resumes. And there were students who were, literally digging wells. They were doing amazing charitable work. They were just, inspired, just off the charts inspired. And there were so many of them. And how do you choose? I found the whole process very difficult, painstaking, actually. I wanted to hire them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are our 100 students.
Yeah, and I'm sure the ones though that came across as most genuine and true to themselves and in alignment with their core values likely stood out rather than the ones that were tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, those that actually told us a little bit about themselves personally in the letters, which is where you can do most of that, who are a little bit revealed themselves, were the most engaging.
Yeah.
And kind of curious. You wanted to meet this person, right? Who is this person? And quite often they were delightful. It was a real treat. Yeah, I think that's great. So how can the students create a strategy to ensure that they're working towards their career goals? I mean, I don't know if it's too early. Should they start now? Should they get in the door and think about this? What are your thoughts on career goals and strategy?
Well, when you get in the door, what the lawyers and the partners are going to tell you right out of the gate is they're going to say to you, just be the best lawyer you can be. That is your focus as an articling student in calls year 1, 2, and 3. Most likely, that is what they're going to tell you. So you want to listen, you want to learn, and you want to apply. So when I talk about learn, I mean like talk to people, listen to the feedback that you are receiving. Write it down, note it, track it, pay very close attention, because what I do know is that lawyers don't like to repeat themselves. And then apply everything that you've learned. And this is all strategy. Some people might think it comes across as common sense, but based on everything I've seen, it isn't a natural habitat for people to do this. So when you put together a file together, or you're providing the paper or the research, go back to the feedback that you've received and go back to the criteria of what you needed to do, and make sure that everything is put in place before you hand in that file. The other thing I'm going to say is, if you are stuck and if you're not sure, stop what you're doing and ask the questions. I cannot tell you how many times a partner has said to me, oh, so frustrating. I gave them this work a week ago. I didn't hear from them for a whole week. I just assumed everything was going well. And then at the 11th hour, I get it dropped on my desk and it's nothing at all what I asked. So quite often what happens, and I don't blame the student for doing this, it's intimidating talking to a very successful partner, and they want to just look like they know it all, and they're really smart. They're expecting you to ask a million questions. They're expecting you to struggle, and they're expecting you to not be perfect. So if you're not 100% sure, ask. And then what I would even say is, halfway through, go back and do a check-in, because you can lose sight of where you're supposed to be going when you're spending hours and hours in research. I know that can happen. So check back in. This is the avenue I'm in. This is the path I'm on. These are some of my findings. Am I on the right track? Because what's hard on partners is not just getting the information at the last minute. They then have to redo it themselves, and then they have all this time to write off. And that's going to happen in your career. No matter what, you're going to have time written off. We all know that, but you want to shrink how many times that happens as much as possible, because if you don't learn and you don't apply what you're hearing, and they're constantly writing time off and they're constantly not getting what they want from you, you are eventually going to get a reputation, which means you might not get hired on an associate, and people will stop leveraging work to you.
I wonder if and that's such great advice. And I know it's very easy for us to sit here and talk about that, but it's really true. And I liken it to, do you remember having professors who used to say to you, you've got a big paper, and they would say, if you're uncertain, if you want to check in, bring me your research, bring me your draft, bring me your outline, whatever the case may be. I'll have a little once over and I'll give you some feedback to redirect you if necessary.
Yeah.
And hopefully those students who I think have some courage do that. And I think those that start doing it realize it's a really good strategy to get to increase your mark, right? Because it's a little gimme. If students can apply that strategy, and a strategy is simply a plan, strategy is a fancy word for a plan. If they can apply that to, working with any lawyer, a partner, an associate, and checking in, I think that would be really great. I want to add too, sometimes your assistant or the assistants or paralegal who's on deck on the file, they're likely to save your behind at certain times.
Oh, absolutely.
Either as a student, certainly as an associate. So sometimes those are good people to go to as well, because they're perhaps not on the phone as often, or a little bit more accessible, or they're more friendly, or whatever the case may be. But there's lots of different people who you can check
Yeah.
in with, right?
Yeah, and they've
Yeah.
probably seen it before too, and they might be able to refer you to a file to review or look at, or case files that are available, how to search things on the system, which is why it's so important that you treat the legal assistants like your new best friends.
Oh yeah. Oh boy. Oh my gosh.
Because they know
That-
everything.
Oh, they know everything. And they know partners sometimes have certain nuances of how they like things.
Yeah,
And I've seen assistants, tackle new associates before they bring something to a partner and say, make sure you,
yeah,
number your list in a certain way, or whatever,
yeah,
make sure, and they go back and they do it. And that makes them look everybody looks good when
yeah.
they're taking care of each other. But the point you were making, which I don't want to lose, is to be open to feedback.
Mhm.
Be open to that. Maybe even make a note of it, pop it on
Yeah.
your phone, make
Yeah.
a note of it,
Yeah.
keep a list. I would love that idea, because I think over time, a student might actually see they're making tremendous progress, because they might see the early notes about a theme of something, and then
Mhm.
6 months down the road, 3 months down the road, they're no longer doing that. So they're already building those good habits you were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And simple things, but important things. So we're building a lot of good habits here. So this is just gold. I love this. Okay.
I have,
All
sorry,
right.
I had a couple other ideas.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. The other thing is, I don't think a lot of students and young associates realize this, but all partners and senior lawyers, for that matter, are encouraged and expected to spend non-billable time with articling students and young lawyers to mentor and coach them. So make it easy for them. Knock on their doors, ask them for a coffee, go out for lunch, a walk, whatever the culture is in the firm, and spend time with them. And when you get that very valuable time, make sure you're asking them questions about their career, their obstacles, their trends, what they see coming down the pipeline. People love to talk about
They
themselves.
do, and their practice. Absolutely.
Give them the opportunity.
Yes.
And when you're showing that kind of connection points, they'll think about you when work comes up, and it gives you an opportunity to talk a little bit about yourself in a very humble and appropriate way. The other thing too, I would suggest is talk to your mentor about what gets you excited. Make sure they're aware of what's going on in your world, what you really want to do, what you really want to pursue, because they can help guide you in that space, even maybe put in a good words for a few of the lawyers that might be in that area, or just make sure, follow up with people and make sure you're getting the work that you were hoping to see.
Right.
But I would also say, on the flip side of that, don't pigeonhole yourself. Because I have spent a lot of time with a lot of young lawyers that come in and they're like, I've got my path all figured out, and this is where I'm going to go. And that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, because often when you start to really understand the business of law and the practice of law and all the different practice areas, you realize, this isn't where I really wanted to be. I thought I wanted to be this type of lawyer, and now I'm realizing I want to be that type of lawyer. So my what's the word I'm looking for?
Your recommendation.
Right? Thank you. Is to try everything. Be really open-minded about all the different type of work, and just pay attention to how you feel when you're doing it.
Right.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And in those conversations, like what you were saying about going for lunch or going for coffee, dig around, be curious about those other areas, because I think there's so much learning to be had. And even with, mid-level to senior associates who've had some years of experience in certain areas, they're another great group to talk to and to dig around. And because now they're starting to feel more senior, and it's fun for them to share their knowledge. You never feel as an expert as much as when you're actually teaching somebody else what you know.
Yeah.
So that's, as you said, people love talking about what they do, but I love that. And take initiative too, right?
Yeah.
And I going right back to the simplistic of, how do you invite a partner? Well, let me ask you, how do you invite a partner, your student? How do you invite a partner to lunch or coffee?
You know what? I read this amazing article that you posted, and I just love to talk to you about it. You're one of the reasons why I came to this firm, and I really want to spend some more time with you. I really admire how you handled yourself in that particular situation. I just would love to talk to you a little bit more about my future, my career. People love hearing awesome things about themselves. You pump their tires a little bit. If it's genuine.
Genuine, for sure.
Right? Yep. They'll be like, yeah. And everybody, again, a human genetic need is for us to want to help other people.
Right.
So it's a very, very rare person to say no to helping someone.
Unless they're just so busy or going into a long trial or something. But I think they're looking for connection, right? Oh, you play tennis? I play tennis. Oh, you you thought that in that meeting too. So did I. And people are
Yeah.
looking for connection. But as you say, really important for that to be genuine.
Yes.
As well. And I find quite often, a partner or a lawyer might say, or associate might say, yes, I'd love to. I'll get back to you. They get back to their office and they're buried in work, and they meant to, but now they've forgotten. So I like to suggest they go to an associate, or excuse me, their assistant, and say, I'd like to book a lunch or a whatever.
Yeah.
And then if you want to get really cheeky, you make it every other month, or you put it on a pattern, right?
Yeah.
So that you have it. And you might, things get changed all the time because work interferes, but at least you're in their calendar and you can kind of move something along.
Yeah.
Those were anything. You have so many nuggets here. Anything else?
One final one, and this is kind of a big picture one, and it goes back to your vision and your happiness. But I always say to young students, don't follow the money. And what I mean by that is that there are a lot of lawyers who become lawyers because they're altruistic. Absolutely. There are also a lot of professionals that go into that space because they know that the incomes will be good. And what I always say to people, don't worry about what you're going to make. Think about what feeds your soul. Think about what gives you energy. And then when you're in that space and you're doing that kind of work, the money is going to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And that is true for any professional.
Mm-hmm.
So money second, happiness, soul feeding, energy first. And everything else falls into place.
Choose yourself first. Yes.
Yeah.
Choose yourself first. Yeah. I think that's just so wise. And it's just so wise. Not always easy to do, but if you put those puzzle pieces together, the core values you talked about at the beginning, and follow that, that's going to really lead you. I love the way you're unpacking this for us. It's going to really lead to being able to put yourself first, because you're going to be clear about what your core values are.
Yeah.
And I think if you're paying attention and you're being aware of what's around you, you're going to notice pretty quickly if you're out of alignment with your firm or the people you're working with.
Yeah. And if you're not happy, you cannot be your best self.
Yeah.
You cannot be productive. You cannot be as successful. When you're really happy and you're doing what you should be doing, and only you know that, that's when you are going to be insanely successful and thrive.
Yeah. Fabulous. Love it. All right. Pitfalls. Okay. Pardon me. Let me ask you one thing first on, we've talked about a positive impact on the firm. What are the pitfalls in the legal environment? You and I could probably list a long list, but what are the pitfalls and what steps can you take to avoid them? You and I have lots of, we've heard lots of things about how challenging it is in a law firm. What are some of what are things that rise to the top for you in this regard?
The very first one is understand the nuances of every law firm, because every law firm has politics. So understand what they are, pay attention. This is where your EQ will really, really serve you well. If you shut your door, you're missing out on most of the conversations that are happening as people walk by your office. So keep your door open, listening to what's going on around you. You will be assigned a mentor. Have coffee with your mentor in a very appropriate way. Talk to your mentor about anything that you should be aware of. A lot of law firms also have buddy systems. If you're assigned a buddy, ask them as well. Ask your assistant, whoever is assigned to you and working, but make sure it's appropriate. You're not there to dig for gossip or dig for dirt. You're just trying to make sure that you're not taking a misstep that could cause you a little bit of pain down the road.
Right. And maybe ask questions like, I had a student once ask me years ago, is it okay if I eat a banana in my office or at my desk? I should say.
Yeah, little things
but
like
that was a real question. And I took it as a real question.
Yeah, it is a real question.
Ask questions and find somebody who is safe, right?
Yeah.
To ask those questions. And you've just named a few. And you're referring to a mentor, and that person can also be known as a principal, right, for a student. And they should be, there's a range of effective principals and mentors. But I like your idea of going to others as well and paying attention to who you can go to and ask questions. And boy, that's gold.
Yeah. And you can even just watch the body language in meetings. You can get a sense of like what kind of counts there are, and just be aware. Don't get involved, but just be aware.
Pay attention. Who's sitting with who regularly? Yeah. Pay attention.
Yeah. So, and that's important, just to kind of avoid a landmine. That's the only reason I bring it up, because I've seen it blown up for a few lawyers who did not rely on their EQ to guide them in some things that they've done. The other thing that I cannot emphasize enough is really obtain that clarity of a lawyer's expectation on work that they're assigning to you.
Mm-hmm.
I see this more times than not where a lawyer will run with something, think they've heard, and then just run off and create a bunch of time on a file that's no longer applicable. And that's a really quick way to just not set you up for success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As an articling student, you're still going to do that. That is absolutely to be expected, but I'm talking about doing what you can to minimize it.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. You are still there to learn. Don't get freaked out if you do have a lot of time on the file. But if you're asking the right questions, then you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I would say to that is don't self-edit your time. Enter all of your time. Let the partner decide or the lawyer decide what's getting billed, because they need to know, what that looks like. And you're being most likely billed at a much lower rate. So I just think that you might have spent 4 hours on this. Maybe a more senior associate would have only spent 45 minutes.
Right.
The two amounts of time probably will be equal. So don't worry
Right.
about it. Never self-edit your time.
Right.
That is a pitfall that I know, again, a lot of lawyers complain to me about. The other thing I would also talk a little bit about is, and this is really, really important, is don't push yourself to burnout. And what I mean by that is lots of law firms have lots of targets, and that's just the world that you go into, but you have to pay attention to your body. And hopefully where you go to work, people will be looking out for you and thinking about your best interests. But you are responsible for your own best interests, and no one else can tell you how much you're working or how hard you're working. Only your body can tell you that. So listen, when you're tired and you're exhausted, stop. Because once you're at that point, you're no longer productive. You're no longer objective. You're no longer helpful. So
possibly making more mistakes too, right?
Yeah, possibly making more mistakes. Take a break. Go home, get a sleep, do something with the family. Tell somebody what's going on in your world if you're feeling overwhelmed. There are people in your organization that are there to help you with that, to help guide you with that. Because there are times where you are going to feel overwhelmed. Don't be ashamed. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. Everyone goes through it. But just pay attention. If there's a bit of anxiety in your stomach, knots in your stomach, heart flutters, tired, cranky, whatever that is, you're not right. You need a break. You need some time. You need some help. Ask for it.
Ask for it. And not to be surprised if it happens, right?
Yeah. Don't be a hero, because you go from hero to zero really, really fast in that kind of space.
And this is exactly why this podcast and interviewing the folks just like you is going to be helpful, because you are giving them the warning signs, and you're making it okay. You're making it safe for them for them to get to that point, but to coach them back into a healthier reset. And that's exactly why we're doing all of what we're doing in this program, to help them ensure that they're reducing anxiety and increasing confidence in this setting, so that they can have fun, they can be more successful, they can learn more calmly. When we're calm, we learn and we listen much more effectively. And I think back to your point about, if you do get at a burnout point, communicate. If you need to step away, and as you said, spend time with family, go and get some exercise, get fresh air, have a minute to reset, communicate that to your firm, right? Wouldn't you say? So that people know where you're at.
Yeah, let them know. Absolutely. There is no shame in that.
No shame.
And it's important.
What would you say to a lawyer who doesn't think that they have that EQ, talking about one of your earlier points? If, for you and I think we have reasonable EQ, and it's also learned. It's a learned behavior, as you said much earlier. But can somebody learn EQ? Can they sit and actually learn what to observe? Is that some of the coaching that you provide?
Yes, that is absolutely some of the coaching that we provide. And quite honestly, everyone does know how to do it. It's a matter of just being asked the right questions to make them think about it, kind of challenging your perspective, and being honest and accountable to yourself. So somebody might say to me, you know what, it's just too hard, I can't be bothered. That's lazy. Because and it's not serving you. Yeah. So if you find something hard, ask for help, and go for it outside of your law firm as well.
Great tip.
Yeah, you don't have to be always reaching out to someone within your firm. There are lots of people outside your firm. I personally have a board of directors that help me with my life. I have coaches and mentors that I go to when I have specific help in different areas. And again, and I've got lots of young leaders who say, well, how do you get a mentor? Answer is you just ask. It is such a privilege and makes you feel amazing to be asked to be a mentor. I don't know anyone who's ever said no.
So Linda Lucas, who has 25 years plus in professional settings, senior executive level roles, I just want to underscore this point. This is the big secret. Linda Lucas doesn't know it all, and she has mentors as well. Like,
yeah. And coaches.
Isn't that? And coaches.
Yeah.
And you reach out to whomever you can to help leverage and learn. And I mean, it's also your spirit of learning and growing and evolving.
Yeah.
I know that to you as a human, but I think that's such an important point for students who everybody expects a student to get a mentor. One of the myths is that you have one mentor. I love the idea of having many mentors, especially one outside the firm, where you can feel really welcome and much freer perhaps to get the help you need. But that even senior, very successful people also have, is there a correlation there? Even successful people have mentors. And
and more lawyers today are, pardon me, more and more law firms today are getting more and more used to the idea of bringing in coaches for their young lawyers, or all lawyers, or partners for that matter. I know I did. In some of the firms I've run. So if that is a space that you feel that would be really helpful, ask about it, because there's PD opportunities. There's often training money there to be spent. And you don't need a lot of it. Like I see it. If I bring in a coach, I might do 4 sessions with a coach, because they're like a spice. You just need a little bit to help you along your way. Yeah, you just need a little bit to help you along your way, kind of refocus you, ground you. Give you some, and they don't come up with the ideas. They help you see your own ideas, your own value, your own worth, and then you move on. And then maybe a couple of years later, you need their help again. Right. So it's just kind of an in and out flow throughout your career, just reaching out, using the right resources.
And it's become so, as you say, it's so commonplace now. It's almost like people going to a counselor for personal things. It's so common now. In the last, I don't know, I mean, I've been legal more than 25 years, and I'm going to say over the last 15 years, certainly it's been very common. And I read some material of yours that says, I'm just going to read it because I really love it. It says, we're here to tell you it's not, many professionals think that once they finish law school, they're expected to know it all. We are here to tell you that is not possible. It takes a community to help a professional reach for the stars. I love that. Reach out to mentors, coaches, friends, colleagues, etc. Tap into that amazing network and experience to help you be the best you can be. That sums up a lot of what you've been talking about. But before I let you go, we need to wrap up with your top 3, maybe 5 essential tips for students or young lawyers. Is there some way? We've covered a ton of ground, Linda. This is fabulous. Gosh, if somebody took half of the advice you just gave and grabbed it and noted it in their phone and just revisited it over the next couple of years, it would be amazing. So those tips, is there some way to distill it down?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
The number one thing is remember you're in a business. So law firms are here to make money. So you need to be thinking about that when you're putting together legal advice. Is it practical for the client? Are you doing it in the most efficient way? Are you leveraging and delegating the way you should? That is later in your life. You're not doing that right now, but you're always thinking about you're making money, which means thinking and acting like an owner. Right. And then really quickly, just to remind lawyers, because a lot of lawyers come in here and they don't realize how law firms actually make money. Law firms are a top line driven industry. What I mean by that is that revenues drive a law firm. And the only way a law firm can grow is by increasing their revenues. How do you drive revenue? You bill the time on a client. So I know that sounds really simple, but a lot of lawyers will forget about it. They're just trying to save the world and create a case file and win an argument. But at the end of the day, if you can't bill for that time, you're not making money and you're going to lose money. Yeah. And then the next really important thing for them to remember is cash is king. So you cannot run a law firm without money in the bank. You need money to pay your rent. You need money to pay your salaries and all the costs that are incurred in a law firm, which means that not only do you have to bill those clients, but you have to collect the money. Now, that's all you need to know as an articling student or a really young lawyer right now. You will learn more as you go. But just walking into the law firm, knowing those fundamentals will already set you apart from other young associates. It's just knowing those economics, because so many don't. And then finally, I would just say, keep an open mind. Don't tie yourself down, and just be true to yourself.
Linda Lucas, the website again, I'm going to repeat it because you got to go and look at the blog, leadadvantage.ca, leadadvantage.ca. Go look at the blog. Don't forget to follow Linda on LinkedIn. Send you're accessible and friendly, and you usually accept invitations, I think.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Linda. Fabulous.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure chatting with you.
So much fun.
Stay tuned for our Lawyer Launcher debrief. Doesn't Linda look like a natural leadership trainer in the way that she expresses herself? Even though she's a CA or CPA, I just thought she was fantastic in this podcast. And as I said, I have seen her in those roles. I have seen her showing up in that way, which years ago kind of set me back. And I was like, cool, it's interesting to see that. And now to see her evolve into this trainer / coach with her partner, Sophia, I think is really great. Some of the things that I loved that she talked about, and this guy, Pierre, her former boss, was probably the spark that brought her to where she is now, and how she has somebody to emulate and look up to. I would wish that for all of us, to have a great boss.
And if you don't have one, maybe you can eventually be one.
Yeah, that's right. Or learn what not to do. Learn what not to do. If you have a really terrible boss, so there's learning in that as well.
Yeah.
Learning what not to do and what not.
It doesn't have to be like that.
No, it doesn't need to be like that. The other quick things that I loved was showing up like an owner. And I've always tried to take that perspective myself. What would you do? How do you show up if you're an owner? And you may not agree with everything, but how do you care? And how does your behavior align with that?
I think people don't realize how others can notice and get a feel for if you really truly care and are invested in something, whether it's a workplace or a project, or whether you're just kind of phoning it in a little bit. And when people really feel like you're in the trenches with them, when managers and bosses feel like you're in there with them, they're going to want to keep you in there with them. When they have someone who's kind of coming in, doing the work, but not necessarily going that little bit extra, it's not to say that you won't do okay, but it's not going to get you as far as when people really feel like, because you're naturally then going to be thinking ahead, well, what are some other things we could do? Thinking outside the box, problem solving. You may not have the answers, but even just showing that dedication inspires confidence in your managers and upper level people, and they will notice that. And you would think that that would be more common than it is.
And it's great training for when you're in front of a client and really sitting beside them and standing beside them in their pursuit of whatever, they're there for.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that's really important.
Yeah.
The fundamental key she talks about is trust in leadership, which I think is naturally known to all of us. And how do you build trust? So it's that consistent showing up, keeping your promises, being courageous as well, and being vulnerable, I think is really important. So I love that comment about trust, and how that second step then is to build relationships. So once you have trust, then you build those relationships. And you're not a separate person at work than you are at home, that you are one person.
It always amazes me how it always comes back to relationships. And this is something in my years working in firms, when I was coaching lawyers, particularly junior lawyers, really helping them understand that building that authentic relationship not only will help you when working with clients, but will help you get clients. People want to work with people they know, like, and trust. And people can tell if it's inauthentic or, so really just focusing on anything. It doesn't even have to be about work. It can be something. So if you're at a networking event and you meet someone, maybe you don't have any synergies right now work-wise, but you connect on some other level, and that eventually, those types of things eventually pay off. If you look at those rainmakers in firms, they are people that are good at not only making connections, authentic connections with people, but maintaining them in appropriate ways over time.
Following up.
Yeah, right? Following up, checking in.
Yeah.
You don't have to check in often if you're checking in authentically.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had lawyers that I've worked with who they were very busy, but they would stop for a minute, come in, look me in the eye, ask me about my daughter's volleyball or something. And I felt like they really cared. And then they were off, and maybe I wouldn't talk to them again for 4 months. But that's all. And this person I'm thinking of in particular was one of those people who just always was bringing in work because you felt that.
And that was, he or she probably brought that to everyone that they encountered too, right? I love that. And it's such a great skill. And they probably
had a meaningful experience as well, because they had you and your daughter in the back of their head and were thinking about that.
It
And
gives you a little bit of a feeling of community in this busy world.
It really does.
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned that, because one of the last comments I wanted to make was she talked about what makes you happy. And then I'm looking at my notes here. What are your values? And these should drive your commitments and identify the kind of leaders you want to follow.
Yeah.
Right. So if that lawyer left the firm and had a space for you, maybe be like, I had a connection with him, or if it was a male, with him. And yeah, you know what? I think I can do my best work with him. Maybe you would follow. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then it's a two-way street. I mean, you're interviewing the firm as well as that they are interviewing you. So it's important to keep that in mind.
Yeah. And she talked a bit about taking corrective feedback, which is a nice way of saying maybe criticism.
Yes.
It is a really difficult skill in all areas of life, personal relationships, work. If you can take that pause, take a few deep breaths, listen to what you're hearing, maybe step away and think about it before you respond. There's often usually a lesson there for you if you're willing to hear it. And so it's really important and also don't get too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, especially early in your career, you have a lot to learn. You're going to make some mistakes. That's to be expected. And don't let it derail you.
And how great it was for her to have that experience with a great boss who she really trusted. I think she talked about that, right? She really trusted him. And the way that he delivered that corrective feedback was really.
And you don't always get that psychological safety at work. You know, you're lucky if you do, sometimes you don't. So sometimes you have to do that for yourself a little bit, be your own coach in your ear, just saying, you know, don't sweat it, shake it off.
Yeah. Loved it. She was great. Yeah. She'd be a great coach.